We have David, him from Canada, who wants to talk about the principle of causality. Hello, David. How are you doing?
Hey, nice to hear your voice. I can't see you, but nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. So, what is it that you want to talk about?
Well, first of all, do you believe in the uncaused first cause? Have you understood that that is necessary?
So, I mean, if you're going to this whole necessary contingent facts type argument, right? Which the principle of causality, I mean, I'll just be honest, is not something that I've spent a whole bunch of time in. But the idea of a necessary being, that there was something that started it all, I'm not really, I don't really find that to be super valuable when talking about God and stuff, because it just kind of seems like it's something that we can never really demonstrate, right? We do have some valid arguments.
We can demonstrate it.
Well, hang on, David. I was in the middle of a sentence, and it is terribly rude to cut people off. It's okay. But the point is that I don't know that we can ever get past the soundness aspect of that stuff, right? We can show that logically speaking, sure, we can get some well-structured arguments, but when it comes to actually giving us a demonstration that we can point to, to show that it is true in reality, I don't know that it's terribly valuable. I know that there are a handful of people that like it though. So
yeah, I would very much agree with parts of that, and also say, I mean, you could go and argue for, you can argue that there is a necessary being from which all, contingent beings, come forth, or upon which they depend. But it takes a lot of speculation and discussion to go into what exactly that is. If there's just more than one, if there is, if there is a line or a chain of such beings, and where it leads and all that, and it will all rely on further factors in order for you to point at a God who is that ultimate necessary being. It always depends on the person and what they want to argue, where they are going to go with this argument. But David, go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to use a reduction to absurdity proof.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we'll assume that there's not an uncaused first cause, and the whole question of God and all his pure perfections, that's a stage 2. Okay, we won't even cover that today, but I just want to establish that we can know with certainty that there is one and only one uncaused first cause, and I'll use a reduction to absurdity proof to do that. So we'll assume there is no uncaused first cause, and you can interrupt me at any time, okay?
Well, just real quick then, David, because to be honest, I think kind of one of the things that AP and I were just saying a second ago was that let's just give you the ball game, man. You won. There's an uncaused first cause. Let's go to the actually showing that it's a God and your specific one, because we have non-religious arguments that accept the idea of a necessary being, and it never takes us to God. And we have ones that are religious. It sounds like you have a religious one and you have a specific God. So let's just say, for the sake of the call, like AP and I accept it. There's a necessary being. There's an uncaused first cause. How do we get to God from there? I think that's what's interesting.
Yeah, let's grant that there is a necessary being, and then let's go from there.
Okay, great. That was easy. So is that necessary being, that uncaused first cause, is it natural or not? I'm asking you.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it natural?
I don't know.
Is it natural?
I don't know anything. I don't know anything that is not natural.
I don't even.
Are you
I don't even
assuming
think
it must be natural?
Doesn't make much sense.
I would just simply say we don't have a reason to accept anything other than the concept of natural things. Like, I don't know what non-natural things are. I don't know what supernatural things are.
You don't want me to prove. You don't want me to prove there's an uncaused first cause. You just want to grant it for the sake of argument. Okay.
Here's the thing, David. Here's the thing, David.
Natural or not? Huh?
David, here's the thing. You're asking us questions in order
Yeah.
to find find your way through
it's
this.
a reduction.
I think the
it's a reduction to absurdity. I can do both cases. There are only
that,
two cases.
that's not
Either
necessarily
natural or not
that's not necessarily how the reduction to absurdity is necessarily formed. I mean, what
You haven't
we're
even heard
doing
my
here is
argument.
what we are doing. I understand that. What we are doing here is we are granting that there might be a necessary being, depending on how you want to define it or find it. Now, please go ahead and make your argument and lay it out accordingly, instead of asking us questions and then shaping it.
Now
based
that
on
you've
that.
granted that there is a first cause, an uncaused first cause, I'm going to do a different reduction to absurdity. So let's say that you, for whatever reason, want to say that it might be natural. So let's consider that case, because there are only two cases. Either it's natural or not. The principle of the excluded middle tells us there's no third option. So it's either natural or not. So let's take the case where it's natural. If it's natural, then it is spatiotemporal, right?
Only if we're saying that the sum total of what we mean by natural necessarily implies space and time, and that may not be the case, right? It may be the case that there are other types of existences out there than the local presentation of our universe. We don't have anything concrete to accept that over the natural explanation that we already have, but just categorically ruling out other possibilities doesn't seem warranted to me. Does that make sense?
I'm not forcing your hand here. We can explore both avenues. There are only two avenues, right? Either it's natural or it's supernatural. I'm assuming.
Well, it's not natural or supernatural. It'd be natural or not natural, right? That was the true dichotomy you set up a second ago. Let's make sure we stick with that.
The true dichotomy, natural or not natural. And what I'm saying is that the supernatural is not natural, and it's above super. Super means above. It's above the natural, meaning that the uncaused first cause, the necessary being, is necessarily not natural, and it is the source of the natural. Therefore, we say it's above the natural. You could also say it's beneath or more fundamental than the natural. It doesn't really matter. What the point is, it's logically prior to the natural, not temporally prior. It's logically prior to the natural, and that's so we can go down this route.
I feel like this is such a pointless discussion. What you're basically saying is that there is a necessary being, an originator from which everything originates. So everything is a product of that. The entire discussion about natural or unnatural can be reduced to that, and it's completely pointless. So if you want to go ahead with that, please go ahead.
Yeah.
What I don't understand. What's pointless about trying to determine? Because either there's a first cause or not, and either it's natural or not. And with these two reduction to absurdity proofs, we can know that there is one and only one supernatural, or as you would say, not natural. That's fine by me. Not natural first cause, and that's what everyone calls God. So, if you
don't you think that by granting a necessary being as you want to define it, we have already solved that problem long ago? Why are we still going through this?
Yeah, and you can just take us to your particular version of God that this proves, because I've had this exact same discussion with Muslim apologists, with Hindu apologists, Jewish apologists. So well, I mean, you say that, but they would disagree with you. So they would be hardcore against whatever God you're positing. I'm almost confident, which we don't know yet because we haven't gotten there.
Everyone who believes in the uncaused first cause agrees 100% that we worship the one and the same God. All of us agree.
Really? Every single one of you agree on that? When did you guys communicate? That's a fascinating group chat, I have to admit. But look, again, I think David, hang on, David. I think what AP and I are trying to do, what we're trying to say with this argument is that, okay, I guess we could argue forever on what that, go back and forth on, is there a necessary being, first cause, uncause, yada, hoda, wada, wada, blah. We could, but for us, it seems more interesting to actually try to get to the God. And so far we don't have any reason to go from, okay, there was a first cause to that first cause is God. Give us that connecting piece there that we're missing. I mean, I don't want to burn in hell forever. I absolutely don't. I'm sure AP doesn't either. Please help us so that we don't suffer that fate at
Why
the hand of
God?
your God. Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate your humility there. You're not far from the kingdom, as Jesus said.
Oh,
So,
good. Thanks.
Unless you were just being sarcastic when you said you don't want to go to hell.
I'm
But
pretty
it's
sure
a
you're
place
serious.
You
Go
don't
ahead.
want to go there.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
So why God?
you want me to talk?
Mhm.
You want me to talk about why the uncaused first God? The uncaused first cause is God. You want me to talk about that?
Go
I
ahead.
know that it's God.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, have you heard of the principle of proportionate causality?
No.
Never heard
Explain
of
it to us.
You've never heard
Give
of it?
give us a talk to me like I'm 5 moment, and talk to us like we're 5, and explain it to us and show us how that.
You know what I
leads us to
find so
God.
tiring about these conversations, David? It looks like it always goes by a specific script that wants to, spend so much time on so many abstract things instead of just making the point.
It's not
I feel
abstract.
like
You
I feel
boys
like both
to-
I feel like both secular Rarity and I, Apostate Prophet, as we are known. I think both of us, we just want to sit here and listen to the argument. Why do you believe that this necessary being is God? Instead of going through a very long script of, do you know this, do you know that, and what is this and what is that? Just tell us, why is this God?
There are very few principles. There are very few axiomatic principles of the natural sciences. Do you boys like natural science?
Sure. Honestly, whatever gets you to showing us the God quicker.
I don't. I hate it.
You boys like the natural sciences. You boys probably think science, trust the science, right? So
I
natural
hate
sciences
science.
are built on axiomatic metaphysical principles, such as the principle of causality, the principle of proportionate causality, which says you can't give what you don't have. Every perfection that's in the effect is more perfectly in the cause, okay? And there are other principles like the principle of sufficient reason. The reason I called today, I thought Matt would be there, Matt Dillahunty, because I phoned him in 2017 and we discussed the principle of sufficient reason. I thought it was time to give him a call back, but I didn't know he wasn't going to be there. But maybe that's why you're not as prepared for the philosophical principles.
Prepared?
Axiomatic principles that underlie the natural sciences. We can't do natural science without these.
It sounds like, David, to
of
me, it sounds like in the time that myself and AP were so generously giving to you to try and get us to understand your God, it sounds like you didn't give us anything, and instead you just said that we didn't know enough about philosophy, which I'll gladly admit. I'm no philosopher, man.
I'm a complete
idiot.
Yeah,
I'm a complete idiot. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and I was really hoping that your God would be able to. Okay, yes, please talk to me like I'm 5.
I want to do one thing, David. Please, I want to do one thing. I want to give you 1 minute to explain to us why your necessary being is the one God that you believe in. If we don't have it in 1 minute, then we will have to end this conversation.
The uncaused first cause is the only necessary being, the one and only necessary being, and he is necessarily the source of every perfection that we see in the natural material world, right? If we see any beauty, any health, any justice, any goodness, any truth, it necessarily comes from that one and only one source. So it is the source of everything that you value: love, justice, beauty, goodness, truth, everything. So it cannot be any other way. You cannot grant me that there is one and only one uncaused first cause and say, oh, but justice doesn't come from that source, or health doesn't come from that source, or beauty doesn't come from that source, or unity doesn't come from that source. Everything, you're admitting that everything comes from that source. You're admitting it for the sake of argument. I'll grant you that, but you're admitting it for the sake of argument. So you have to see that every perfection that we have in this world is coming from that one source, and that's why we worship it as God.
All right, 1 minute is over. I will give my response to this very quickly. Everything that you have said within those 1 minute boils down to God is the necessary being because God is the source of everything, because he's perfect, because it can't be anything else, and you can't answer this question in any other way. Now, as said, I am a complete idiot probably in terms of whatever philosophical level you expect from me, but this is basically what I understand from those 1 minute. God is the necessary being because God is the perfect source of everything, because it can't be anything else. else. That, my friend, is complete nonsense. We're relying on the assumption that this God does exist and that he must be the source of everything, that he is the only God that may be perfect, and so on many different factors that render this whole argument that you are making completely unnecessary, because you would first have to go and show to us that this God, makes sense, that he is indeed the creator, and so on. So I think this is a complete waste of time. I'm sorry.
I gotta say, I think that that summary was basically it. What I heard you say, basically, David, was God is all the things, all the good stuff in the world. God's the necessary being. That's what I heard. I didn't hear the connection between us granting you that there's a necessary being and then why that thing is God, how we know that that thing is God. Again, yeah, maybe I do just need to read another a philosophical treatise out there. Maybe there's a book or a YouTube video I haven't come across yet. But yeah, I didn't hear much more than that.
Can I say one thing for 30 seconds, and then I'll sign off?
Okay.
Sure.
I grant.
We can use the natural light of reason without recourse to faith to prove, using a reduction to absurdity to prove that there is one and only one uncaused first cause, and a second reduction to absurdity test to prove with equal certainty that that first cause is not natural. And boom, there you go. You've got your source of every perfection that we see in this world. They're not pure perfections in this world, but they are perfections, reflections of that true infinite perfection of God. And we can know with certainty by the light of natural reason without recourse to faith. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you boys today. And I hope
that
you
was
have a
very
good
nice.
Sunday.
Thank you. You too. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
God bless. Bye.
You too. Bye.
I didn't I wasn't convinced by that, man.
I mean, I said I'm an idiot, so
Yeah, I mean,
can't
and maybe that's our problem. Maybe we're just not intelligent enough. If only Yahweh or Allah or Brahman would have made us smarter, Gosh, we could have.
Well, he basically came in and said that the reason we're not understanding this is because we're not prepared and we don't really know our stuff. And I mean, I understand. I mean, I'm an idiot, and that's just how I will roll today. So.
That's okay. That's all right. We've all got stuff we need to work on, right?